Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me on today's CoolCare Masterclass, where we'll be looking at how you can reduce agency usage with CoolCare, how different ways it can help you with that. As I'm sure you all know, CoolCare is here to help make operating your care home easier, more efficient, and more profitable. Focus today on the easier and more efficient, hopefully, on that, looking at reducing our usage of agency within the home. So, if anyone does have any questions throughout today's masterclass, you can ask using the Q&A option on Zoom. You should find it on there, where it'll open up a little Q&A box, and you can ask any questions in there. And a member of the team is on hand to answer any questions you might have. Anything you think of as we're going through, feel free to ask. And we will have some time at the end of the session once we've finished. So leave the room open and answer any of the questions anyone's got lingering after we've finished. But yeah, anything you think of at all, we'll try our best to answer any and all questions you might have. Now, today what we'll look at, as I say, is helping see how CoolCare can help reduce your agency usage within the home. Looking at essentially, what we're able to track your agency usage within the home, and then seeing different ways we can essentially get these kind of shifts out to our staff rather than having to rely on agency where we might not need to. So, and the different ways we can monitor that and get our staff in there. So, without further ado, I'm going to swap over to my demo system and we'll get things underway. Now, the first step in reducing agency usage is essentially knowing what you've got, what agency you're using already. I'll just get onto my demo system. CoolCare can help with that if I share my screen. There we are. And to help track your agency usage within CoolCare, we have under our staff section the agency ledger, which is where we can see any agency shifts that have been put into the system. Now, there's two ways you can add agency onto CoolCare. It's via our calendar or via this page directly. Sorry, not via the calendar, excuse me. Let me try that again. Via our rota, where you can assign a shift to agency, and via the agency ledger here, where you can add them in directly. And this agency ledger can track by showing that any upcoming planned agency shifts within the next month, as well as any historic completed agency shifts by default for the previous month. You can see the kind of date range it's showing you up at the top there, but we can change that if we need to. If I were to see all my agency from the start of the year up to kind of the next month time in there, I might do it for up to the 31st of May. A quick go in there. It will show me the details of any shifts that I've added in as agency on my system, and we can see the details of them on there. And agency shifts, as I say, they've been added to the rota, show up on here, and any additional details we've got surrounding them will pop up in here, such as the date the shift was for, the details of the shift, so the agency that we've brought in for, it's the reason for using agency, the position that agency staff is covering, and even the monetary value of that shift, the costs we've popped in there, can be added to the shift just by clicking into it and adding in the full detail of it on there as well. That's essentially anything you need to know about those shifts you can find there, as well as if they were kind of planned in or completed as well, kind of in the past, future, and some total costs from them as well. So you've got all the details of your shifts that have been assigned to agency all in one place on here. That way we can see what we're using, and we can see stuff that might be planned in the future that we might want to look at and see if we can find someone else to do it. For example, on here you can see I've got a shift planned in for the 25th of April, and that's this Friday. All that's currently planned in there to be done by agency, but in fact, we might be able to find a staff member to do it to cover that shift instead of the agency. And to see all that side of things, that's where we can go to our rota. So under your staff section, we've got the rota under there. And this holds, obviously, our live rota for our staff members, seeing all the shifts we've got planned in and who's assigned to them from there. And right away, you might be able to spot it already. There is the agency shift in here, as we know, and they easily stick out compared to any others on the system because they're brown compared to blue. So the blue shifts are all the ones we've already got assigned to our regular staff members. This brown one sign here, that even says agency in there, means it's obviously been assigned to agency staff. So you can easily spot your agency usage on the rota as well. It's not just having to check on that ledger. Just looking through your rota, you'll be able to find any shifts that have been assigned to agency and potentially do something about them. So in this example here, let's say actually I've got a staff member that can do this shift already, so I don't need the agency in there anymore. I might have asked around the home, found someone to do it instead, rather than having to rely on the agency in there. If we click on that shift, we can then actually change this from an agency shift to a regular staff member. You can see the button there, the blue one, change staff on the left-hand side. If I click on that, we can then choose to assign a staff to a regular staff member rather than having to use the agency on there. Like I say, this might have just been where I've asked around and actually found someone to do this shift already, so I'm not worried about, say, actually searching for another staff member to do it. I just want to select someone from here, said, you know, I might have spoken with Maria, seen her around the home, and she said she can do this shift on Friday, so I'm just going to pop her in there and change that shift from agency to a regular staff. And you can see there how it changes over and goes from brown from the agency to now a regular blue shift because it's now a regular staff member doing it. And from doing that here, that will also mark this shift as cancelled in my agency ledger. So if I go back to the ledger just to show you, we can see in here, it's kind of disappeared from my list by default because the list, typically the agency ledger is just looking for anything that was either planned in the future or completed already. But if I use my little filter option on here, I can get it to show me anyone that's cancelled as well. Meaning I can then see that quite a few cancelled agency shifts in there, including the one for the 25th that we popped in and has now been cancelled. So even through the agency ledger, you can still see that these shifts were originally planned in, but have then been cancelled to say, you know, we can see how many, essentially kind of the kind of money we're saving from just seeing the shifts that have been cancelled from agency in there because we've, you know, assigned them over to staff. So you've easily got, say, a nice tracking of agency usage in that ledger there. And you can even export this out from the system to see outside of CoolCare if you need to. You can see the export option at the top of this page. If I just click on that, that then just gives us that same agency ledger for whatever date range view we're looking at for all the shifts we can see. Putting that into a nice Excel spreadsheet. If you do want it outside of CoolCare, you can see that and share it with people that might not have access to CoolCare that needs to know about those agency usage as well. Yeah. We can easily track our agency usage through CoolCare, and like I say, if we know how much we're using, we know, let's say, how to reduce it. We can then look at reducing that usage and seeing different ways CoolCare can helpfully help reduce the amount of agency we would be using. And there's two main ways CoolCare can help with that. I just open mine up on here. Typically, kind of agency might be used where the shifts are requiring cover, but staff members, you know, haven't requested to pick them up. Perhaps because they're unaware of those shifts, they might not even know that the shifts are available to pick up to say that they can do those shifts that they're available for. And that's where CoolCare can help two ways to help with that. There is our staff messaging and the staff portal. So the first one we'll look at, the staff messaging, is where you can text staff from CoolCare straight from the rota here, asking if they're available to do those shifts, and they can then respond in their own time if they're available or not. To do that, we just click on any shift that we have that's unassigned. So I say, actually, I've got a shift for tomorrow night that I need to find someone to cover. If I click into that shift there, we then get a few options. So just by looking at the shift right away, we can see staff members that would be able to do that shift. If they're already assigned to a different shift, they'll be taken out of that list. And if they had anything else going on that day, such as, let's say they had a holiday booked in, or they had an absence on that day, they were on leave or something like that, it would pop up in this other event, so we know, not to worry about those people. But any staff member that has a mobile number on the staff record, you can see in this number column here in the middle, if they have a mobile number there, we can then send them a text message from CoolCare asking if they're able to cover that shift. And it's as simple as just clicking the button next to the staff member we want to text. We'll go with this one here. And that will then send them a text message. Now, I'm just sending it to one person in this example, but you could send it to multiple people. You can send it to all staff members that have, a number on their record. If they don't have a number on their record and you need to add that to them, you could do that through the staff member just by going into the staff records. You go into your staff member. On the very first page on their record in the general tab, if you scroll down, you should find in there the option to add in a mobile number for them. So as long as they've got that mobile number there, they can receive those texts on the rota asking if they're able to cover those shifts. Now, we sent the staff member a text message and they have received it. Unfortunately, the next bit I can't particularly show you too well because I am doing it on my mobile. But the staff member will receive a text message from CoolCare and it'll always be the same number it comes from. So they can save that, as a contact on their mobile to say this is CoolCare. So we always know where those texts are coming from. And it just tells you there, you've been requested to cover a shift. Gives them the details of the shift it's for. So the name of the home, Sam's home in my case here, the position it's for, care assistant nights, as well as the date and time of the shift, so 24th of April at 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. And within that text message, they can then click on a little web page, and there'll be a link in there to open up a website on their phone. And on that web page, they can then say yes or no if they're able to cover that shift. There's just two buttons on there, either can cover or unavailable, excuse me, on that. And we're going to say, yes, they can cover that. I'm just doing that on my mobile phone. Unfortunately, I can't show you that too well. But once the staff member has responded to it, that then feeds back to you on CoolCare. Now, just looking at the rota right away, you can't really tell that someone's responded to that message just by looking at it dead on here. That's where this button at the top corner comes in handy, where it says cover requests. As the little tooltip says there, it will show a list of unassigned shifts that are with awaiting staff requests. Essentially, if I click on that button there, it gives me a list of all the shifts that I sent out text messages to staff members for to see if they can cover it. And we can see those all in one go to see how people have responded, said yes or no if they're available for those shifts. So again, just the one message, just the one shift I sent out the one message for. So you can see in there, again, the date and time of the shift, 24th of April, 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. The shift group it's for, so care nights group in here, and the position it's for as well, care assistant nights. So I'll narrow down where it is. And then it says there, one can cover. That means the one person that I sent that text message to has said, yes, they can cover that shift, they're available to do it. If they had said, no, they can't do it, it would instead say one unavailable to say they can't do the shift. Or if they've just not responded yet, it would say one awaiting on there as well. And so if you send out a message to multiple people, you can clearly see through there how many people have said yes, how many have said no, and how many people just haven't responded to it yet. So that gives you the kind of overview of if people have responded to the message, we can see it through there. Of course, that's not the full story. We still need to see actually who said yes and who said no, and more importantly, who we want to do the shift from those responses. So if I click into that shift there, it tells me which one it is, corrects the information on that box. If I click into the shift itself, we can then see on here, things have changed slightly. So where before, after I send the message, it had a little question mark to say they've not responded to it yet. Now, if you look at that staff member, it's got a little green tick box there. So that means they've said yes, they could do that shift on that. If they'd have said no, it would have a red cross instead. But either way, it tells me the exact date and time they responded as well. You can see there just now, 2 minutes ago. So that just means the staff member said yes, they can do it. They told me about it 2 minutes ago. And so we can see that's all in one place. That way, if you're sending the shift out, if you're sending the message out to multiple staff members all in one go, you can then say who said yes, who said no, and when they've all responded. That way, it might be if it's a first come, first served basis on who gets the shift, you can choose based on the time, the date and time they responded there, the earliest that said yes, or it just might be based on who you want to do the shift once everyone has got back to you. So in this case, Harry said yes, he can do that shift. If I then select him on that, it will assign him to it. And that's the other big thing to note with that is once people do respond to the shift, it doesn't put someone on there automatically. CoolCare won't choose someone for you. You still have to choose who you want to do the shift once everyone does respond to it from that. And once they have been assigned to it, you can see on there that the shift has been filled in. If I then do this little cover request with a little blue arrow there, the shift will disappear from there because it's now assigned. We don't need to keep a track of it anymore. And I can just close off that box. As well as that, it will actually send the staff member another text message to confirm they've been assigned to that shift. And that gets sent because of this setting up at the top. Text staff when assigned to shift. All that means is when you assign a staff member onto a single shift, it will send them a text message to let them know. And it just gives them the details of that shift to say, in my case here, you've been assigned to cover a shift. And again, gives them all the details there, the name of the home, the position it's for, and the date and time. So they know the details of that shift they have been assigned to. So in this case, it's good to use as a confirmation to say this person has been assigned to the shift and they then know that they've been put on it. But it's just for any single shift you assign someone to. It doesn't have to be one you've requested them to do beforehand. It might just be putting someone on an additional shift. It will send a text message to let them know. And it will do that as long as this setting's turned on. If you have that turned off, it's not going to send them any text. It's not going to kind of queue them up in the background. It will just not send them anything until you turn that on again. So good to use as a confirmation. The only thing to be aware of is it won't let people know that they haven't been put on the shift. So it only takes the person that has been assigned to the shift as a kind of confirmation. Anyone else that you did ask about and haven't then been assigned to it, you might want to let them know separately, or they'd be able to kind of keep an eye on this through our second method of seeing these shifts. And that is through the staff portal. So if you don't know, the staff portal is a separate system that staff can kind of look at themselves to see some information regarding their own shifts and what they've got upcoming. And they can also use that to kind of proactively interact with CoolCare and request the shifts themselves. So to do that, I should have my staff portal open already. Let me just take a look. I'm just going to shrink it down slightly so we can see it better on there. And the staff portal can be accessed via the mobiles, tablets, whatever they use to access the internet on their own computers. They can get to the staff portal page on here. The staff portal, like I say, a separate web page that staff would access different to your main CoolCare login. Now with that, and bear me 1 moment because it has a unique link for each system, which I thought I had put in, but it hasn't gone through. I'm just going to get mine loaded up on my system here. So yes, the link to access the staff portal is unique for each system. So the one I'm using for my demo system is slightly different to yours on there, but it will be signified by the customer reference at the top. If I just share that again. And that will typically be your company name, and sure, say typically head office teams will be aware of that, or if not, our support team can get you that information as well. But then they can log in with their own details. And staff members can set up their own login details with the register, whether they register for the portal. I've got one set up already, so we're just going to get logged in to take a look. So when they log into the portal, it brings them to this page here. First thing they'll see is their kind of own individual calendar, which kind of shows them the shifts they have upcoming with that. So that way, going back to the messaging I mentioned, they can see if they have been assigned to that shift through that. So it will always give them a live, up-to-date look of what's going on with them, with their rota hours in there. But what we're interested in seeing is available shifts. So this page here will allows the staff members essentially to proactively look for shifts that they can cover that they might want to pick up themselves. The staff member can see a list of unassigned shifts from your rota for any positions they have on their staff record, whether that's their main role, whether that's an extra position for them, they can see that's in there, and you can spot them all through here. As well as that, so you can see these little tick box at the top. If they actually untick that, it will show them it's for any other homes that they have extra positions for. Again, so if they pull staff between multiple homes, they can even put requests for other home shifts that are available as well for them. But by default, it will only show them the shifts for their main home and anything that you sent requested to them. So you can see the list of shifts on here. This will show them month by month, so I can see the rest of April's shifts in there. And if I click the little arrow at the top there, I can even go forward to next month and see May if I want to pick up anything from there as well. In my case, a lot of unassigned shifts on my rota this staff member could potentially pick up from there. And it might be, say, they want to pick up an extra shift over the weekend. They want to do an additional day shift. Well, luckily there is one for the Saturday that they could do, needed there, which is relating to this shift here on the Saturday 26th, the 7x7 there. So if they want to put in a request for that, all they have to do is click the button and it just changes it to automatically say it can cover, which means they've put in that request and that will show up on the shift in the rota. However, if at any point they do change their mind while that shift is still unassigned, as they can still see it on there, they can change it to unavailable if they would want to. So it might be actually they initially, might have just clicked it by accident and want to change it to unavailable, so they can't do that, or they've had to, somebody's come up and they can't do it any further. But that's only changing, say, the status of their request while it is still there to request on that. They can't change their mind once they've been assigned to the shift through the portal itself, so don't worry about people backing out of shifts from there. All this means is once they put in that request on here to say they can cover it, that feeds through to your rota. If I click back into here, again, these requests also show up in the cover request box. So if I click that button at the top there, it will tell me about that shift that has been put in a request for, and I can see it through that. But the requested ones by default go to can cover. If they'd have changed it to unavailable, it would obviously change that as well. But that way, again, you can kind of monitor those shifts that staff members are proactively putting in requests for without having to check through each shift individually. So I can see someone's put in a request for a shift on the 26th. So I can go to that date, find the shift on there, and click on it. And from here, similar to the messaging, it pops it in this column on the right-hand side underneath the message, except rather than a ticker across to say yes or no, it instead puts a little exclamation mark. So it's just a slightly different symbol to show it slightly differently, just to means they've actually shown it, they've requested it proactively through the portal rather than when you've messaged them for them in the first place. So you can see it through that and say, just show slightly differently. If you would need to see those separately on there, you can see them through that. But at the end of the day, it still works the same way. Oh, excuse me. At the end of the day, you still have to choose who you want to do the shift. So again, it won't put them on the shift automatically. We can see them on there. And in this case, Amelia's putting that request. Well, we might as well give her the shift then. Click that button there. and that will assign to the shift. It will again send them a text message to let them know they've been assigned to it with the tech staff assigned to shift on there. And it will also feed back to them on the staff portal. So if we go back to my calendar on the staff portal here, as I say, this being a live up-to-date look of what's going on the system for them, we can now see the extra shift on the Saturday has been put in for them as well. So that way they know they've been put on that shift and they know so that they're doing it. As well as that, once a shift has been assigned on the rota, if you go back to available shifts, it does disappear from the available shifts in here because it's now assigned. We no longer need to find someone to do it, so it just disappears from there. That. One additional thing with the available shifts as well is it can kind of combine the both things we've seen. So if I were to text a staff member from the rota, it also shows up on the staff portal. So let's say, for example, well, she said she can do the shift on the Saturday. In that case, can she do the shift on the Sunday as well? I might want to double check, see if she is available for that Sunday shift as well. Amelia here, I can send her a text message from the rota. So as well as her receiving a text message from CoolCare asking to do that shift, it also pops up on the staff portal. If I just reload that page, we can now see Sunday the 27th, this one there says home requested. And that means they've actually been sent a text message from the system. If they missed the text for whatever reason, they can also see it on the portal as well. And they get the same options there, can cover or unavailable. And just to show you, in this case, we might say unavailable, just to pop it in there as that. And to show you how they look on the rota itself, there you can see the red across to say they've declined it, they can't do that shift. And again, that pops up in the cover requests as unavailable, in this case, on there. And that triggers me to say, okay, in that case, I can find someone else to do it. I can text some other staff members, see if anyone else can do that shift instead. So we don't have to bring in the agency at the very end of it all. Yes, that's kind of the idea with those options there. It's just essentially getting ahead of your staff members or them being able to essentially get ahead of you almost proactively, checking for shifts that we might want to cover. Because the more options staff have to be able to see those shifts and pick them up, the less likely you're then having to rely on agency usage instead. And hopefully the less you have to even use that agency ledger to keep track of them in the first place. But all of that to say helps to come towards, say, bringing our staff members in rather than bringing in agency instead. And that's all there is to it, really, for reducing agency usage. It's, I say, all importantly about knowing what you use and finding ways to reduce that, either from, say, potentially getting ahead of the game with either staff members doing it themselves or you asking them to do the shifts as well from there. So I hope that's been useful. Thank you all for joining us on today. Just a couple extra things to mention before I let you all go. Oh, I'm going too far, but it's on there. So, from us in training, if you are interested in additional training on CoolCare, whether you oversee financing, payroll, rotas, or residents, anything you think of, you can work with our trainers either online or in person. And if you didn't know, you might be entitled to some free of charge training. Every customer will have at least 2 30-minute free of charge training sessions on there. And you can contract our training team to check your entitlements. Either email us, training@coolcare.co.uk, or you can phone our team 0113 385 3853, and they can help you out and see what training we have available. So yeah, as always, thank you all for joining me on this masterclass. To let you know, our next masterclass in 2 weeks' time, we'll be looking at recruitment and retention within CoolCare and all stuff relating to that side of things on that. So I do look forward to seeing you on that if you want to join us again. I think the registration email will go out soon, in the next few days. And yes, hopefully I'll see you next time for that. Well, thank you all for joining, and I say we'll stick around for a few minutes just to answer any questions people might have on there. So thank you all for joining, and have a nice day.